Hello everyone, Shalom again from the Israeli Embassy in Washington. I'm delighted to be back on Twitter to be answering some of your questions. And the first of them comes from Ben Smith at Politico, who notes that U.S. and EA officials have disagreed on whether they have given Iran too long, specifically meaning whether Iran has now requested 3 weeks in order to allow inspectors into the revealed site at Qum, the enrichment plant that Iranians had been hiding from international inspectors. I think Ben is asking whether 3 weeks will allow those Iranians to hide any evidence of illicit enriching materials and activities at this Qum site. I think it's very important to keep in mind that Iran has systematically lied to the world community about its nuclear program for the last 25 years. It has made secret sites such as Qum, which is sought to keep out of the scrutiny of international inspectors in the world community. I think it's reasonable to assume that the longer Iran has to allow these inspectors in, the greater leeway it will have to hide evidence of uranium enrichment and even possibly a nuclear weapons program. We have to keep our eye on that clock all the time and keep the pressure up on Iran in these talks. I think with that, I think it's important for me to point out that the government of Israel continues to support President Obama's program of engaging the Iranians' leadership in an attempt to dissuade them from enriching uranium by diplomatic means, and we support President Obama's stated intention that should those efforts fail, then the United States will join with the international community in levying very severe sanctions on Iran in a further effort to get Iran to stop enriching uranium. The next question comes from Hashmonian, who asks, what can the average person do to keep the international pressure and focus on Iran at a high level? Well, I am the Israeli ambassador to the United States, and it's not for me to tell American citizens what they should do politically. But having said that, I don't think I'd be remiss in suggesting that among the many things you could do is write your concerns to your congressman, get on talk radio, talk to your church and synagogue groups, your community centers, even your neighbors, and let your voices be heard. Keep in mind that this is a regime which threatens not only Israel and many of its neighbors, but threatens the entire world community. Should Iran get a bomb, it will be able to provide nuclear weapons technology to terrorist groups who can penetrate the United States almost as easily as they can penetrate countries in the world. Iran is assiduously working on a rocket delivery system which can now reach Europe, and in a few years can reach this country as well, the United States. And Iran not only threatens Israel, its neighbors, and the world, it also threatens its own citizens. This is a regime that is opening fire on its own citizens who are protesting peacefully for freedom and democracy. And I think that the citizens of this country have every right and reason to let their concerns be known. Thank you again for listening. Shalom from the Israeli Embassy in Washington.